That's why I was looking at my phone and you were saying hi. I was like, I don't see it.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, got it.
All right, guys. Yeah, I think we're on now. We've had our link deleted tonight, and we've been kicked off alive. So what else is going to happen?
Jeez.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Kicked off alive. So what else is going to happen?
That's crazy. Well, I see it
Seems kind of
now.
personal. So we should be live right
Yeah.
now.
All great things come to those who wait.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, I'm awake, Scott. I'm ready to go tonight. I've been fighting this computer all day. I'm ready to go. We got a good show tonight. I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a really good show. I'm even going to talk about one of my favorite movies that I think there was a subliminal message in, and I haven't even told Kirk about it, but I think Kirk knows where I'll go with it whenever I mention the movie. We'll let the chat fill up a little bit before we get started. We always have a lot of surprises tonight. Yes, my procedure has been moved to the 5th. I'm able to join you all tonight. I didn't want to leave Kirk here by himself. Everybody says they've been waiting on us. Hey, we're not that late.
No. Hi, Mom.
Good.
She's been here early.
No.
She checked in early.
Mom, Brandy says
She's
hello.
Mom B. There's my mama. Got hubby
nice.
on there too. Hey, Cynthia.
She has family in the chat.
Yeah. And they have normal
Well,
family.
I guess we should welcome everybody.
Okay, something's going on. You guys are.
Oh, no.
I think Kirk's having some technical difficulties tonight. We might get to watch him throw his phone.
He was having problems with the other night, too.
His cell tower got struck by lightning last night.
Well, that might have something to do with it.
Yeah, he said it messed up a lot of things. Thank you, Queen Rose. I appreciate the prayers. Let's see
Cynthia.
who we got. Yeah, we got Cynthia. We got Jacqueline. We got Queen Rose and
JD Smooth.
Oh yeah, he's a regular all the time. Candy Wolf.
Donald Klein, fellow Tennessean, right there.
The Tennessee.
Yeah.
There he is. I think your tower must be damaged.
You guys are free.
There he is.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
StreamYard kicked me out.
Yeah. Really? I noticed you're lagging. Brandy's right on cue.
It said something went wrong. Oops. If you're connected to the internet, it may be on our end. Try again later.
Yeah, we're burning up here in Texas, too.
Whew. Oh, Lanita, I hope you get better soon. We'll pray for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Brandy, your mom said you look beautiful.
Thank you, Mom. She's coming from Boston.
Hi, Cynthia.
Authentic Dogman loincloths back in stock anytime soon.
I gotta say, I haven't seen them.
I'll show you later at the end of the show.
Yeah. He'll have to model them for you.
Yeah. We wouldn't sell nothing.
I was going to say just do it after I sign off.
Dude, we might have to start recruiting models for those.
Yeah. I'll sign them and send them to you. How's that?
There you go.
Well, I
Tanisha
guess.
from Australia. I bet they're roomy. They come in
No, they're
different
actually
sizes.
tight. We're gonna get kicked off the air before we ever start. Well, we're starting to. Yeah, there we go. It acts like it's lagging a little bit tonight, even on bringing people in. The numbers are slow, and whenever they do catch up, it's like they do it all at once.
Yeah, I noticed
Uh-huh.
that.
So I'll go ahead and give you my
Yeah,
movie theory while we're waiting,
Okay.
and y'all can tell me what you think. It's actually one of my favorite movies. I didn't even think about this until my buddy and I were talking about it tonight, and it just happened in discussion. The movie City of Angels. It's got Nicolas Cage. He's my favorite actor.
It's a good
You
movie.
notice? Well, I thought it was really weird when we got to talking about it. Have you noticed? Like our theory on the Nephilim, is the fallen angels, right?
Mm,
He falls from the building to become mortal, right?
right.
And what does him and her do? They eat fruit together. The fruit. They make love,
Right.
and it's like kind of that movie is like this message, because they
Yep.
are, and if you look in the movie, they're standing on the buildings, they're in the library, they're the watchers.
Yep.
Yep.
It's subliminal
Some of them are
messaging.
fallen, and some of them,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I think so. Belinda said she got kicked out as soon as she started. So yeah, I
What
think
is going on?
I
I
think
don't
there's a lot.
know.
They may not want us to talk about what we're wanting to talk about. There's
Imagine that.
from Oklahoma City. Not our show.
Yeah, like tell us something new, why don't you?
Yeah, like we don't talk about controversial things. I mean,
We're the hot topic around here.
I mean, at least we're not talking about what we discussed earlier about Elon, right?
Doing good, JD
oh
Smith.
boy. Yeah, we would get kicked off.
Oh yeah, they wouldn't just slow us down. They would remove us.
Yep.
Yeah. Probably permanently.
We don't want to give them a reason.
No, because
Hell,
even
I
the
have
guys
already.
We love our little
Kirk's gonna
family
share
too much for that.
Yes. Well, Kirk's going to share a personal message with us tonight, I think, later.
A little bit later, yep. Definitely will. It's going to be a rough one, but.
Yeah, he says he doesn't really like talking about it, but he's going to share it.
Well, he's got his whole family here with him, so.
Very rough.
I think a lot of us have a lot of those demons in our closet, things that's happened, that you deal with. Quietly.
Absolutely. If you've lived it all, you do.
Well, I guess we probably should start this off with maybe a little background for what gnomes actually are, what they can do.
Yeah, I've done a lot of reading on them, and I learned a lot just by reading on them.
I did too. I was like, man, they're far cry from the things I decorate my house with at Christmas.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm ever going to look at them the same.
Thank you, Belinda.
I don't think we want to decorate with them from what I've read.
No.
Well, actually, Actually, I might like to decorate with them, hang them from the local trees.
At Halloween.
Yeah.
I had a lady contact me on the video I done, and she said that she was a witch, and part of their paganistic, yeah, part.
You seem to attract
part of
those,
their,
Mike.
well, part of their paganistic rituals is they put the gnomes in their circle to invite the live ones in to inhabit it, because they come in and bless the ground and so forth, so forth. Sorry, Janice, if you're watching for the flashback, but
Oh
it
my
seems we
God.
can't get away from them. But I don't know.
And quite frankly, I didn't even want to go there because I didn't want to trigger anybody with that.
Don't worry, I did it tonight. It's not your fault.
Hi, Emmy. When you hear what I have to say,
Emmy's the smart
you'll
one.
understand my hatred toward them.
So, what'd you think about that? The last video I done, that was actual encounters. What'd you think about the lady saying it was climbing up the side of their house to look in the windows?
That's creepy.
That's not unusual. They are vicious. They are mischievous. They are. There's there's nothing that I want to do more than literally every one of them put in one place and let's use a tactical nuke on them. Send them back to hell where they came from.
Wow.
Well, that one lady even said, her koi pond. They was eating her fish out of her koi pond.
Yeah.
And
no.
living in her barn. They was in her barn. Yep. She said they laugh. She said they laugh all the time. They just cackle all the time.
Evil. Yep. Just evil.
Sound like good target.
She said they're disgusting.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
She also said that one of the ways you can tell if one's around is they will smell like an old man, she said, that hasn't had a bath in a long time.
They do. So, and they're 3.5 foot tall. The two that I have seen and encountered, both were bald-headed. Both were naked.
That's what. That one lady said. Remember what she said? Let me think how I can say this without trying to keep this PG so we don't get a strike against us. But he was standing. Remember, was talking about he was standing on her pond, and she said he produced his organ to her and gave her the finger.
Right. Yep.
And she said it was terrifying.
Mike, there is nothing about these things not terrifying.
Okay.
I mean, absolutely nothing about them not terrifying. They're about the size of an 8 or 9 year old boy, except they're heavily muscled, extraordinarily fast. At 3.5 foot tall, one of them damn things could beat an Olympic sprinter.
Right.
I mean, and ultra strong.
That is going to look funny with them short little legs.
Yeah.
Where did they originate from? I don't know. I would say hell. And they need to go back there.
Check this out. You're going to like this, Kirk. I'm throwing it up for you. Lanita says she can send us some pictures of some, and they're clear. Or the pic isn't clear. Hey, we'll take the pics. We'll look at them.
Heck yeah.
Lanita will, definitely.
Absolutely.
Here is a real kicker. They will work with Sasquatch. I do have in my possession on my phone a picture of two Sasquatch kneeling down with a gnome between the two of them with a hand on each shoulder of them.
I had a lot of people telling me they're going to send in pictures, and it's more popular than I thought it actually was. I didn't know it would be this popular, and I've got I was showing Kirk just a little bit of the emails that we've received. There is so many encounters of these things; it's crazy.
Yeah.
But see, I've never heard of them until this.
Well, one guy went to sleep, and he was in his car. He called it car camping. He wakes up during the middle of the night, and he says he can't actually wake up. He's having trouble waking up. And he looks, and this thing is standing on the hood of his car, and it's scratching on the windshield at him at the lake. And he finally is able to knock the door open and get out. And whenever he crawls around to the back of the car, they had shoved persimmons in his tailpipe. Carbon monoxide.
Imagine that. Yep.
Wow. They were trying to kill him.
Yeah.
Yep.
You think if something's that intelligent, they would figure out a way to wear clothes?
Well, I mean,
I don't think they want to.
The one that lady said she seen, he was wearing what was it, a yellow shirt and pants and a hat, and every time she seen him, he would at her.
Gnomes are all over the world. They are called by different things in different countries. Gnomes are very prevalent in Alaska. As a matter of fact, most police officers in Alaska actually either believe in them or believe that it's a good possibility that it is true. They have been suspected in many, many, many missing persons cases, especially if that missing person is a young girl. They have a penchant to steal children, specifically, for the most part, young females.
The Indians on the Trail of Tears spoke about, the little people.
Yep, sure did. Now, I haven't even told Mike, Brandy, or anybody else yet on this show. 2 years ago, I got a call, my team from Southern Ohio, which is an hour and 10 minutes from here, where I ended up having to go. A family with a young girl, about 1.5 years old. The husband got up in the middle of the night one night. He had to use the bathroom, so he left the bedroom, heading down to the bathroom, past his daughter's bedroom. And because of the age of the daughter, they don't ever close the door. The door stays open about halfway so they can hear. He glanced in the room. There was a gnome at the edge of the baby's crib looking at it. But he didn't realize it was a gnome at first. His brother-in-law lives right next to him, who has like a 8-9-year-old son. The first thought came to mind, because he just woke up and his eyes aren't real focused yet, was, well, this got to be Harvey. Lo and behold, he takes a couple more steps and realizes, no, that does not look like Harvey at all. As he turns around and takes a step back to the bedroom, this gnome runs out, runs by him, runs out the door. Well, the first thing the guy does is run in and check on the baby. Baby's okay. Turns around and runs out the house. The gnome was standing right at the edge of the tree line like it was trying to bait him to get him to follow it into the trees. Now, fortunately, this guy was smart enough not to follow it in. But could have been very bad. He did call the police. The police came out and investigated. And you're honest to God gonna love this report, how they wrote it up. They wrote it up as potential dwarf naked in the house, trespassing in the house. And let it go at that. They never, no follow-up. To the best of his knowledge, they didn't even ask around to the neighbors or anything else. Several times after that, within just a short period of time, they heard walking in the night on the front porch. They heard the door rattle like something was trying to check to get in. Where they're located, it's very sparsely populated and everybody pretty much knows everybody. So they really don't even lock their doors until that happened. Then their doors stayed locked from that point on the whole time, even if they were there. Their doors were locked. If they had to go outside, they would unlock them, walk out, and relock it. They put up with that for another month and a half and moved. Never was I able to really find good evidence of it, but yet everything the man said, I can believe because of how he described it. I mean, it really resonated with what I've seen, what I experienced. And, you know, that's creepy as hell when you got a little 1.5-year-old, 2-year-old kid and something standing over its bed.
Absolutely.
I mean, poor guy never, whether he had a gun or not, never had a chance to even get the gun. Quite frankly, like I said, I'd like to see them all sent back to hell. I wish the guy would have had a gun and blown it in half. These things, they are real. They are dangerous. There's so damn many cases of abductions and people that just come up missing throughout the world that there has to be more to these than what you know. There's a fairly famous case, happened in Alaska, I don't know, about 15 years ago, something like that, where there was a 8-9-year-old girl went out back to play in their backyard. The mother hears something. The mother goes to the window, looks out, and she sees a little person that she thinks is a kid, and it's running way faster than she's ever seen a kid run away. She's looking for her daughter, but the daughter's not there. She's hollering the daughter's name. The daughter doesn't answer. She calls the police. The police come out, take the statement. Of course, they're actually searching as one of the officers is taking the statement. And they went to the school, which it actually was school time. I don't know why the girl was home. But all the children of the town were accounted for. So with that being said, this little person that she saw could not be a child from town. It had to be an outsider. Now, there was not another city, town, whatever you want to call it, for 40 miles. So you can pretty well rule that one out. Well, the cops are checking every place that they can think of that the girl might have been taken to if she was abducted. The sheriff of the county himself goes to check this one abandoned warehouse. And by now it's dark. He pulls in, he shines the light around, never thinking about something might be up on the roof. He doesn't see anything, but he gets out of his car. He's going to walk around back and physically check the back of it. He has a rock thrown at him off the roof. Almost hit him. He looked up and he sees the gnome. Now, it threw a second rock at him. He said that the rocks that were thrown, he could barely pick up. But yet this little thing was able to pick him up and throw him at him like it was nothing. Now, this sheriff was about 6'1", about 200 pounds. Not a small man. And being the fact that he was right around 40 years old at the time, I would say he was in pretty good condition. Scared silly, you have a photo taken? Yeah. I always tell everybody, trust your gut instinct.
They also want to know if they can be killed. Yeah. Everything I read said that, they die. The lady in the house killed one.
Mike, I was actually going to kind of answer that, but not really yet. I will tell you when I share my personal experience with this, the answer to that.
Yeah.
I think I know where you're going with that.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that one. I loved it when I heard it.
I'm really not looking forward to it because it was very hard for me to let you guys know about it. Brought back a hell of a lot of memories that I really didn't want to remember. It's been 54, 55 years now, something like that. And it literally still sends shivers down my back. I mean, the hair on my arms stand up when I think about this.
Well, I'm sure you told us just a small portion and not all the torture and the constant needling and stuff that it was doing to y'all all this time. You can only fit in so much.
And you weren't the only witness, right?
Exactly. Oh no, there were more witnesses. You can be sure of that. Another case that I'd like to touch on with you guys, just to give you a little bit more background. This is another famous case that happened up in Alaska. The guy who was driving down the road out in the middle of nowhere sees a kid, little boy out there. He knows that there's nothing around for a couple hours drive. So he knows the boy shouldn't be there. He stops, picks the boy up, starts talking to the boy. Where are you from? Why are you here? What happened? And the boy tells him where he's from. Where he's from is about 3 hours drive from where he was picked up. He told the man that he was taken by a little person drug underground into a cave system. While he was in the cave system, there was a big room down there. There were many of these little things. He met a little girl down there that was about his same age, 8, 9-year-old age range. And she came up to him and told him what her name was, that she had been taken also. She told him what her parents' names were, and asked him if he ever gets out of here, if he can ever escape or they let him go, to please get a hold of her parents, tell her parents that she's okay, but she doesn't think she'll ever get to see him again because she doesn't think that they'll ever let her go. Well, it's a toss-up whether they let him escape or he actually did escape. So with him telling this guy that picked him up that, the guy figures part of it the kid's making up, but being where the kid is and where he lives, the kid probably was kidnapped. So he takes the kid to the sheriff's department where he lives 3 hours away. Sheriff interviews him. While he's interviewing him, he calls the parents, to come on down. The boy tells the sheriff exactly what he told the guy that picked him up. Sheriff says, okay, wait a minute. Let me do a quick search about this missing girl. So he does a search, and he doesn't find anything. So he puts it off as the kid's got an overactive imagination. By this time, the parents are there and they're just happy to have him back. So they take him home. Sheriff goes on home at the end of his shift. He's laying in bed. This is really bothering him. As I said, law enforcement in Alaska believes in these things. So the sheriff gets up out of bed, goes back in to the station, decides that he's going to run a national database search for all time for this little girl's name. Well, he did that. And lo and behold, it popped up. The kid was telling 100% the truth. The sheriff was able to pull up the picture of the girl. The description matched exactly. The problem with that is she still had on the same clothes that she had on the day she went missing. She went missing 40 years earlier. Her parents had already died. But everything that she told this boy was 100% able to be substantiated, that there was no way that this boy could have known any of this. She was actually from a place about 120 miles away. So even if, had it been in some newspaper article or something, it would have not been in the area that, April, it would not have been in the area that he would have actually even had a chance to read that newspaper.
No.
The sheriff was just beside himself. He was beating himself up over the fact that he let time go by without reacting, and he basically mobilized all his forces along with some volunteers. They got the boy. They asked the boy to take them to where he was when the little man took him and pulled him under the ground. The boy took him right to where he says it happened. The sheriff and his people looked around, could not find an opening to the ground. They went as far as to later have LiDAR done on the ground, which is ground penetrating radar. They did find there is a cave system there. Never could find an opening though.
That lends to what? I mean, did time stop down there? Or was she dead and he was seeing her ghost?
Nope. She was 100% alive, still had the same clothes on. He was able to touch her. She was real. She was 100% real. The boy actually thought that he had only been gone a couple hours, and he'd been gone 3 days. So evidently, whatever it is, it's, shall we say, maybe a portal to where time has no meaning.
Right. So
I don't know. I don't have an explanation for that part.
How many years they
You
can
know
live?
what I would say, so I'm going to abstain.
Hang on.
I give everybody
Okay,
trouble.
things are getting funny here on this end again.
I give everybody trouble.
Let me try something.
They know my hard-headedness on those.
On the portals.
I believe they exist.
Not for flesh and blood.
Yeah. You've been listening to me.
What's that?
We were just chit-chatting about my hard-headedness on portals. She remembers everything that I said.
It's all stored right up here.
Yeah, but remember, it was accidentally proven that they do exist.
Yeah,
now, whether flesh and blood can use it, well, I'm not going to say that a human can use it, but I'm going to say maybe some of this other stuff that is
I believe so.
So-called flesh and blood, maybe they can and do use them.
Right.
I agree. Yeah, I do.
I
just don't know.
Like I said, I don't know, but time seems to have no meaning around them.
That's wild.
Or maybe they age different than us.
Yeah.
But still, she hasn't aged.
What's that?
She hadn't aged at all.
Yeah,
she had not aged a day. She had not aged a day and was still wearing the same clothes that she had on 40 years earlier when she disappeared.
Was it you?
Still looked like a little 8-year-old girl.
Was it you that told me about the twin girls today? Was it
Hatbox? That little girl wasn't even in the woods. She was in her backyard.
Did we talk about the twins today, Kirk, or did I have that conversation with somebody else? The twin girls?
Mm-mm.
Mike, something's going on here. You're breaking up. Hang on a minute.
So it wasn't me about the twin girls. So it had to be him, maybe.
Okay, there was 2 girls that were born like back in the 1800s, and they died. And then the lady, like 20 years later, had twins again that were little girls. And these 2 little girls ended up having like the same injury scars in the same places. And they would talk about things and toys. Yep. They would look for toys, that the other deceased kids had played with. But these kids were looking for the same toys like they were theirs. And it had happened to a lady.
Like a past life?
Or a familiar spirit attachment, maybe. I saw something move behind you, Randy.
Me?
You know, I don't know about past lives, whether, you know, just don't know.
I'm not even going to go there with whatever's in here.
That's not the first case that I know of stuff like that happening.
My
Well,
thing is, what goes on in a person's mind if she is stuck down there in that cave for 40 years? How does it not feel like at least some large amount of time has went by and she's still the same?
or better yet,
I don't know. I don't have the answer to that.
That's
what if
just
it's not that
question.
little? What if it's not that little girl? What if it's something coming back? That gets even creepier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd have to go there with that with you, Mike. He likes to make sure we all have
I knew he was gonna. I knew he was gonna. Oh, trust me, I'm gonna have them now anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Oh no, we've already got those demons out of the basement. They can go away.
It's the detective part of me. I pick out the little
now,
things.
to answer the question earlier, from earlier, can they be killed? Yes, very much so. And it would be my pleasure to do it.
Hey, Brooks.
There was a lady I was reading about, and tell me if you don't think this is bad. Was another example that I was reading about. She had a doggy door, just like the story I done. She woke up one night. She heard her dog. Her dog was screaming, having a fit. She goes to the front room. This little thing had took the garland off of the Christmas tree, had tied it around the dog's neck, and was the dog with a cowboy hat on. And she called 911. There was an actual 911 recording of it. And but when they arrived, they did take pictures of a size 6.5 shoe. Mud all over the house where it came in the doggy door. And they lived in the middle of nowhere. So they knew there wasn't a kid running around with a size 6.5 shoe by himself, 3 in the morning, attacking somebody's dog in their front room and doing what it did to it. I mean, these little things are like nasty.
Yeah, they're like little flesh and blood demons running around.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Jack, I was a investigator. A cleat investigator. Here in Oklahoma, you have to have a cleat license to practice law. And I had a cleat license for over 18 years, and I was a captain and an investigator whenever I was hurt. It's like they're filthy little things, just.
Yeah, the few things I've read, it's like they like to torture animals, or they're killing someone's chickens, or they're knocking on people's doors and windows and running away, or they're tearing up someone's yard, or go in their garage and they're tearing it up, and they come home and the stuff's strode everywhere. It's like...
Yep. Well, that's like that one very good friend of mine. She came home. Something had been in her house, and she had seen a gnome there earlier. Something had been in her house. Her lights were on. Her oven was on full blast. All the burners on the oven were on. That's not something that a burglar would do. That's a mischievous thing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, a burglar is not going to break in your house to wear a cowboy hat and do that to your dog, surely. I mean, that's just something that's just, it's torturing something for fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or like trying to burn his friend's house down.
Yeah, and they love, for some reason, they love pawns and to eat your fish out of them.
Well, it's a food source for them. It's an easy food source. One thing that I will say, and I really can't say this is for sure, but of all the encounters that I know of people having with them, in my own experience, they're always around water. There will always be a water source very close.
And if they're eating fish all the time, you know they're going to smell like fish.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And they live underground?
Yep.
They say they smell like an old man that hasn't bathed in forever. That's how everybody's explaining it.
Yeah. Yeah, they stink.
Like an old man.
I mean, that's...
You said something about their toenails too, Kirk, that was interesting.
I was actually waiting till I got to, but I'll go ahead. The toenails on them actually are not like a human toenail. They are more like a canine toenail. They are, for the most part, human-looking feet. The toenail comes down in curves like a dog's. And literally, when the ground condition is right and they take off on their run, the first few steps, you can actually see scratches from the step where the toenails are digging into the ground.
They get some
Quantum
traction.
leap, yeah, they stink.
Exactly, Belinda. That's what I was thinking when when Mike said fishy. I was thinking of them nasty toes too, probably with fungus of all things.
Hi, all newcomers.
Hey, Hatbox.
Turquoise Seas, I don't believe I've seen you in here before.
Gnomes were thought to possess magical powers to protect and punish people and reward activists and treasures. These sound like grumpy, disgruntled gnomes that have not got respect. I would say more of a sinister creature.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
They seems like they enjoy not just killing, I think, but from what I read, it's more of the torture part.
Yeah, well, and I believe a lot of it is they enjoy the psychological part of doing it to people. I mean, no, goblins and gnomes are not the same thing.
They remind me of those big things in The Hobbit. Those big, what are those things I said they were? Those big, huge things in The Hobbit. They remind me of the trolls, but smaller.
Yeah.
They were nasty too, trying to eat the horses. They were going to eat the hobbits.
Yeah. Yep, miniaturized version of a troll, basically.
And they were nasty. Oh.
If you see one walk into your bedroom wearing all leather with a ball gag, you better run.
Turquoise, they get to be about 3.5 foot is the largest that I've seen or had anybody tell me about that they've encountered.
JD Smooth, yeah. I think the gremlins might be a little cuter, though.
And not really. A shell, they are ultra strong. Like I said, yeah, well, the one that threw that rock at that sheriff, he said that that rock was probably as heavy as he was, that he could barely pick it up. And that little gnome threw it at him. So if something can throw a 150, 200-pound rock when it's only 3.5 foot tall, yeah, that's ultra strong, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Here's a warning for a trigger warning, but I have to say it, Kirk. I was reading about it today, and they said the gnomes are also found not at the Girl Scout camps, but at the Boy Scout camps, and they love to use the circles.
Really now?
I thought it was weird that they would be at the boy ones. I figured it would be the females.
I did too, because I thought they like to steal the little girls.
Yeah, you know, I don't. That's what I couldn't figure out. I was like, that's weird. Why would they?
And
Unless
why are they stealing the little girls for anyway? I asked Kirk, I said, was it a breeding program or something? It's not like they can just go out and pick up anybody.
Yeah, that's about the truth. Belinda, no, you would not use it as your beer glass table. Quite frankly, if you encountered one, it would not be a good experience for you.
They also said that's where the old stories come from. You know, you better check under your bed. They said that's where that originated from.
Very well may have. That I don't know. But
the smell of it stinky.
And like what Janet says, you know, if something is moving around outside your home windows, you'll hear a sound, interruptions, and smell it. But, you know, it's hard to tell what they are just because of that, because we know dogmen stink, Bigfoot stink. They all stink.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, dogman smells like rancid meat. I mean,
what would you rather run into? A gnome, a dogman, or a Bigfoot?
Dogman or a Bigfoot, not a gnome.
Wow.
Not a gnome again.
I think I would pick a Bigfoot just because I think they're the most docile of the two. They're more likely to pass you by if you don't corner them.
Yeah.
I'm a Dogman fan, but that's only from a distance. If I'd want to be packing for any of the three.
But there again, it was a Bigfoot that about ripped my leg off that time. So, you know.
Your wife had a bad experience where you live at.
Oh, God, yeah.
I don't forget things, Kirk.
Yeah, actually, she had seen a dogman kill and carry off a deer in the backyard.
It seems to be their favorite snack. But there's been a lot of people that have encounters as long as they've backed off. They haven't been attacked either.
We got builder trash here from Scotland tonight.
Hey, international. I like that.
I do too. I love Scotland. It's so pretty. My husband's been over there. I haven't.
Many times you've smelled something moving by. Unfortunately, there's a whole host of things that could be Bigfoot, dogman, a gnome, several others. No, a troll is basically a supersized gnome. Yeah, they do kind of look similar. They're both nasty, but trolls can be very big, and gnomes, like I said, 3.5 foot. That's about all they get that I know of.
Can you imagine if you had a place that had a bunch of gnomes, and then you go outside one night, you know, to get groceries or something out of the car, and you turn around and the gnome that you thought was one of your decorations is actually gone that was there when you walked past it? You know?
Well, I actually,
that's why
one of the welding shops I'm responsible for is in Houston, Texas, and this goes back to just before Hurricane Harvey hit. My one welder, actually, his house was being besieged by gnomes. He had 7 of them at one point come in. Actually got a photo of 5 of them come in. Basically ransacking the house. It was one of the few houses that was a 2-story house down there. And him and his wife and his daughter would actually stay locked in the upstairs bedroom.
There is a female ones to answer your question. I read about those today too.
Yes,
And
they
they are
are.
just as nasty as the male one.
Yeah.
Do they have hair?
So
Yes. The female ones do have hair.
the women don't get off easy this time. They're just as nasty.
Yeah.
I don't know. There might be some females out
And
there that might want him a good old gnome here or there.
No, I don't think they do. No. I think they would rather be in a phone booth with a pissed off grizzly bear.
Oh man. Lori,
Yeah.
thank you for
Down
this.
around where I'm from, you'd be surprised what some of these women will go for.
They're everywhere, kid.
That could pass as a
They're
6.
everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch that. I want to so bad, but I'm not going to.
I know. I do too, but
I know I can't. I want to so bad.
right.
I'll catch you on the
This is PG rated show, so
Yeah.
as much as I really would like to, but
Yeah.
Seems like you can't really go into everything that gnomes do because it's PG rated.
Well, I mean, there was this one I read about today, and she, I don't even know how to say it.
Well,
she was milking the bull, and the farmer caught her, and whenever he tried to catch, he thought it was a child, until he turned around and he saw what it was doing, and it was a nude gnome female, and it had a stick in its hand, and on the stick they had tied a rock on the top of it, and as it ran past him, it whacked him below the knee, and he said he wasn't even able to walk. And there was another one in there that grabbed the hay hook and started walking toward him, but his buddy came in from hay in the field, and he heard him coming on the tractor, and they both took off running toward the pond. So probably saved him.
Yeah.
I'm sure it did.
Absolutely.
And you know,
one
thing about them is
this guy's
milking the pool.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put it any different without getting in trouble.
Okay. Got the visual I just got on that.
Very long way. Yeah.
Gasoline.
I mean,
gasoline goes a long way too.
Yes.
Throw them in the back of the truck and take them to the car wash.
Yep. Supposedly gasoline's the best way to get rid of them.
Yep.
Yeah. Turquoise Seas, thanks for the $10.
Thank you, Turquoise Seas.
Thank you.
There's a lot of boots on the ground fixing to be coming up. Me and Kirk's actually kind of working on something together. We have a theory that we're wanting to test, and we're going to be testing it in 2 different locations. And I think it's going to tell us a lot.
They're going to need some prayers.
I appreciate that.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Gnomes gone wild. I mean, it's just.
No, it is not a TV show. No, it's not that they've gone wild. It is what they are. They are not these cute little things. They are evil They are wicked, they are nasty, and they can be damn sure deadly.
I tell you, there was a sign in Maine. This happened in Maine, and a lady took a picture of this sign. And you tell me if this is not weird. It's a public restroom, but the public restroom that they have up there is like an outhouse. It's a hole dug into the ground. And whenever she took her child in there was a sign above the toilet. It said, "Please check in the toilet to make sure it is clear of creatures and people before using." Now, if you think about it, out of all the things that I ever done, that I ever enforced that a sign was placed at, they don't place a sign there unless that has happened at least once.
Right.
Right.
So something happened there that caused them to place a sign to check what's down the hole before you sit on it. And the first thing that popped into my mind was the hills have eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Yes.
And did you know
Yes,
that's based
I
on a
do.
true story? That's a true
Yes,
story.
I
I didn't
did.
know that.
Yeah.
That was a family up there did that for 25 years.
Have you seen
Yep.
where Stephen King is from up there? No wonder this poor man's mind is the way it is in the stories he comes up with. There's a lot of truth behind some of that, I'm sure. I'm telling you.
Oh, I am
Go
too.
look it up.
It's I mean,
Hey,
you
Bill.
normally don't make a law or a rule unless something has happened to cause you to have to make that law or that rule.
Right.
And I would
Right.
say a kid, because it said before leaving kids unattended, that tells me that there was a kid left in there at one point that was either attempted to be grabbed, it was grabbed, or it went missing.
Yep.
Yeah. I know down here you got to watch for snakes in your toilet.
And it even the movie It, they all float down here. Are they trying to tell us things?
Yep.
Mm.
I mean, I know if I was sitting there and something reached up and grabbed me, I'd feel sorry for it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
I'm not going to even go there.
Nope.
I was reading, and you got me to. Kirk got me to reading this stuff, and my automatic investigative mind, I start digging into this, and I was finding out things about these things. Okay, there was an old lady. She was going to her car. The neighbor calls 911 and says, "Our neighbor is being attacked by a pack of dogs." And they think it's a dog attack. So the police are on their way, and this lady's on the phone with 911, and she's saying, "You got to hurry, you got to hurry, they're attacking her. Well, whenever the police sirens, they start hearing the sirens, this whole pack takes off and runs into the woods. Well, the next day they pull footage, the camera footage. It was little people.
It weren't dogs, right?
No, it was little people. They attacked her, and they were pulling chunks of hair out of her head. She was like 80-something years old. One of them was on her back and just pounding the back of her head. The other one had grabbed her dress and pulled it up over her head, and they were just pounding her all over. It was terrible.
Wow. That poor old woman. Did she end up going to the hospital?
My chronic.
She eventually succumbed to her injury. She died.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
My chronic fatigue. Yes, we do have mines around here. And tunnels, caves.
Too.
Yep.
It's just,
Scott, thanks. I appreciate that. That does make things much easier.
It's just, I mean, you watch an old lady get beat to death by a pack of midgets, or gnomes. That's, that's cold.
And then Mike's like, they pulled her dress up and they just kept pounding her.
Yeah, they pulled it over her head, and she was trying to get out of the dress.
What if they assaulted her the way they did that dog?
Well, they didn't see a cowboy hat that I read, so it wasn't him.
She's safe then.
It didn't match the MO. But
well, I'm gonna throw something out. I'm gonna throw something out there for everybody to think about. The vast majority of the missing people cases that are thought to be by gnomes are young females. Now, why do they want young females? I'll let y'all figure that one out.
So
thank you.
Here's another question: if they are doing that, if they're taking them for let's say breeding purposes, would it still be a gnome when it was born, or what would it be? Is it going to be something else? Because we know that their physical attributes are humanish. They do have different
humanish
things,
things,
so
but yeah.
So what would you get like that? I wonder.
Maybe the gnome gene is the dominant gene, and you end up getting gnomes. On the other hand, because of
Do you remember the video?
James, I will get to that.
Yeah.
Do you remember the video I did where with me, Sarah, and Kaylee? You remember we went to that flooded culvert that night and we videotaped that 3 foot whatever it was with the wings crawled up the tree? Yeah. We shined a spotlight on it, and it jumped out of the tree down in the water and then swam underneath the culvert, right? Next thing I know, I hear, and Sarah screams, something slapped her, but there was nothing there. So we got in the Durango and we're leaving, and I look back at Kaylee because she's sitting in the back. She was pretty upset, and I see the face of this thing looking in her window at her.
Yeah, I remember.
So it had to be riding on that thing, on the side of the Durango you can step on to get in, like a little rail.
The side steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was sitting there looking right in the window at her.
That was Kaylee's last one, wasn't it? She didn't go after a while.
Yes, it was.
See, I don't blame her.
She couldn't handle it after that.
I mean, it touched her. So, I mean, that's a whole different thing. It's different when you're looking at them and they're a far way off, but it touched her. That's a whole new feeling comes over you, I'm sure.
But you remember Sarah, whenever we was walking across the old bridge, remember she stepped across the bridge and it grabbed her leg.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And after that,
I'll guarantee you that.
Yeah.
I'll guarantee you that was a gnome. And it's not the fact
when they're touching you. That'd be it for me.
The weird thing about it is it's not so much that there was nothing there when you looked. It was there. It was just gone already because they are that fast. Your reaction time is not that good.
And another thing, the town that I was researching, they was back in the 1800s. This bridge, for as long as my mom and her mom, had all known, which is back into the 1800s, this bridge was actually named Troll Bridge because people had saw small little humanish people in and around and under this bridge. I went under the bridge. Okay. Now I cannot say that a kid or somebody did not do this, but this bridge is out in the middle of nowhere. and you really have to work to get down under it. And me and my cousin went down underneath it to see what was under there, curious. And when we got under there was drawings from where a rock had been picked up and had drawn on the pilings of it. And they had drew like pictures of babies. One of them drew like a window with a lady doing dishes inside of the window. One of them was a guy on a tractor. It was like things that they were seeing,
Right.
but they were drawing it. And that was freaky. We left. There was a fire down there. You could tell where there had been a fire under the bridge. And we was like, this ain't right. You know, it felt really weird.
It's like they were drawing what they were spying on.
Yeah.
Do they got like an old man face, like with missing teeth and stuff? Someone was asking what their face looks like.
Yeah, it is. It is.
The pictures I've seen, they look gnarly.
Yeah, it is pretty much like an older man's face. The one thing about the couple that I've seen is they both seem to have an odd shaped nose. Almost like a fighter's nose where it comes out and then down, like a nose that's been broke and not set professionally a few times.
Like a
their teeth. Yeah. Their teeth appeared to be pointed. I didn't get a close enough look or a long enough look to be able to tell you whether they were broke, whether it was naturally shaped, you know, but they didn't have what you would call human looking teeth.
Okay.
Close, but
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you know, not quite. Hey, Calvin, good to see you in here.
Yeah, good to see you, Cal. I hope you're feeling better. This lady, or I'm not sure if it's a lady or a guy, she says, try something sometime. If when you're near something by the water, try bowing to it to see if it'll bow back. The ones you described, you're looking for a frog or a monkey. No. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
No.
I honestly feel like that's a bad idea. You're talking about the kappa, and the kappa is a creature that was a long time ago, and this creature is linked to demonic activities.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
never bow to none of these things.
No.
No. The only thing I'll be bowing to them after I send one to hell, I might say a prayer over it.
When you bow, you're being submissive.
Yes,
you do not want
exactly
to be
right.
submissive.
That's what
That's
I need.
exactly right.
I need a submissive gnome.
Yours had a large nose, but no wrinkles.
I might be able to keep her.
I can tell you, the one for sure had what I would call minor wrinkles. Looked about like my skin looks now. I'm 63, soon to be 64. You know, yeah, I've got a few wrinkles, but not that much. The other one, it did not appear to have wrinkles, but there again, I was nowhere near as close to it as I was the first one. Sorry, Mark.
If you see me with duct tape,
I know. I was reading poor Mark.
If you see me with duct tape, handcuffs, and a ball gag, I'm just going on a date. No.
Okay.
With a gnome.
Yeah. Hopefully she doesn't have too big of a nose. Another thing I read I thought was really weird too. They will steal your kids' bicycles. That was a big thing people were bringing up. They would steal like toys, mostly bicycles.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they have a kid kind of a, I don't know.
Nope, there's a reason they do it. There's a reason they do it. It's to try to lure that child away looking for that bicycle and or toy to where they can get at them. they're baiting that child.
You know,
and the one thing I will say, they do seem to have some patience.
Whenever I was younger, Shell, if you'd have them repost it, please. I'm sorry, it's hard to keep up. They had a bridge that my older cousins would walk to, and they would go hang out at this bridge. They called it Swinging Bridge. And they would go to it, and it was a bridge on cables. And I was never old enough at the time, Mom would never let me go. They were too old for me, I didn't need to go kind of deal. And the older boys would go down to the bridge, and they done it all the time. And one night, they had accidentally been gone a little longer than they normally was, and they were on their way back. Well, on your way back from the creek, you had to walk through a patch of persimmon trees. And if you know what them are like, they're real thick. They're not real big around, but they're real thick, and you have to kind of work your way through them. And they were going through the persimmon trees, and they started seeing little people behind them laughing and giggling. Well, they got a little bit freaked out, and so they started hurrying. Well, when they started hurrying, these little things started throwing persimmons at them and sticks and rocks and pebbles, and were kind of like looking around trees and kind of like following them and chasing them. And I know something had to really happen, because that's where they would go to get away from the parents and us little kids that was probably getting on their nerves. And they would drink a beer, or something they had hid in the spring down there, They never went back. I mean, they never did. They never went back. And we had, all the stuff that happened at Granny's, all that other stuff, they could deal with that as long as they was back before dark. But this happened in the daylight, and they said, I will never go back to that bridge.
I wouldn't either.
Imagine that.
No. Mm-mm. If they're going to do that in broad daylight, imagine what they would do in the evening.
It's just...
Yes, we need to definitely do one on rakes, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Those are interesting.
Kirk had a bad ordeal there, too. I remember the rake story.
Why me? Why me?
Kirk hates
Get buzzed on persimmons, yes.
I guess maybe because of the fact that I do spend so much time doing this stuff. Over the years, I've encountered too much stuff, but yeah. And it wasn't necessarily me that had such the bad experience. It was the guy that I was with. It actually drove him to become an alcoholic, then a drug addict, and commit suicide. Do they make tools? Hell yes.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, there have been midget arrowheads found, midget spear points found. And when I say midget, I mean smaller than normal. They are made out of flint, much like the Native Americans used.
And then whenever they do find the tools, they look the same as the ancient tools, but whenever they look at them, they were made a lot sooner. They're newer made. They're still fresh.
Yeah. Yeah. Obsolete. Every state in the nation, probably every country in the world. James, yeah. And we'll actually, I guess, do a show on that. Things flying from the air scare me, but, not like these little son of bitches do.
It's not like going down in the basement and seeing a gnome standing there looking at you.
Right.
No.
I mean, it makes you wonder sometimes some of these attacks, that, it's happening. Because look at the guy that was found in the woods. Everybody said they thought a Bigfoot done it, right? They found a guy that was a hitchhiker. He came up missing. He was wearing a red backpack. So they put out an APB on him. Florida Highway Patrol. He ends up seeing a red backpack hanging on a fence. So he stops, calls it in, he gets out, goes out to check the backpack, notices further out there's something white up in a tree. He goes to investigate. It's a white shirt. There is a guy that has his hands and feet bound with grapevines, is what they called it, tied around him, and he was hung by vines by his neck, but his arms were out and his legs were out and it was around his neck. It was like he was stretched out. And kind of like when you would tan a hide or something.
Yeah.
And you know what they said done it? They said, well, it's gotta be a cult.
Yeah, of course.
I think the cult I think they would have rope.
Right.
Yeah, I do too. But it gave an easy out for the police.
Oh yeah, closed case.
Yeah. You know, the police do not want to tell people what's actually going on. And I will say, not all of them know everything that goes on, but
I'll tell you a story, Kirk, before you tell yours. A personal story, and I don't share a lot of these either, but I'll tell you a story from whenever I was like probably 12, and it bothered me for a long time. My dad, when he was younger, before he had met my mom, I guess, had went to a carnival, and at the carnival, he won like a big ceramic lion. It was black with a gold mane on it, and it had its one paw up like this and its foot down. They had it sitting in the front room, and in order to go to my mom and dad's bedroom, I had to leave my bedroom, walk through the front room, then go through the kitchen and into their bedroom. I thought that I was dreaming because I had one night got up to go to the room, and this thing had reached out and grabbed my shirt and wouldn't let me go. And I was trying to get loose. And it done it a few times, but I thought it was a dream. Later on, my sister, she had a bedroom that was attached by a double closet that attached both of our rooms. We were talking one night because we was up doing stupid things, supposed to be in bed. And she tells me, I've been having a bad dream, I'm afraid to sleep. She's like, every time I go to the bathroom or go to mom and dad's room, it grabs me. And that scared the shit out of me because I was like, if it's grabbing her, and
then it ain't a dream.
Right. So we went and told Dad, and of course he laughed. They ended up putting it outside in the garage. I walked out in the garage one day and shoved it off and busted it and said, oh, I accidentally knocked it off. But I hated that thing.
I would too. I accidentally broke it too.
Yeah, I did.
And by conventional wisdom says that can't happen. But yet, it happened because it happened to you, your sister, it happened to, there's things in this world that we don't know, we don't understand, don't know that we'll ever understand them.
I think when you're younger, you're more open to it.
And that is correct.
Because I know that I saw things when I was younger. And there was things, there was things at Granny's that, everybody knew was there. But then there was always the other things that you saw. Like my little cousin said, he went outside and he came in crying, having a fit, absolutely screaming, having a fit. And he's like 13 years old. And his mom finally gets him calmed down. I remember him being on her lap. She was sitting, I remember it perfect. She was sitting at the table. She had him on her lap. She had a wet washcloth, wiping his face, trying to calm him down. He's screaming. And she goes, what did you see? She thought he had seen that Bigfoot or whatever was at Granny's. And he goes, no. And she's like, what was it? And all he could say, a spider with a monkey's head. That's all we ever got out of him. A spider with a
Rita, yes, they can. That had to be one hell of a large spider to have a monkey's head.
Yeah, that'd be huge.
Yep.
But when I
You
was
know what?
younger, we went four-wheeling out in the woods all the time, four-wheeling. And we would hear stuff. We just chalked it up to deer and stuff like that. But looking back, and I'm thinking, there were times that really couldn't have been a deer.
Candy, right? Candy, you are 100% right.
Yep.
Conventional wisdom equals we know and we lie about it.
Yep.
What if what he seen, Kirk, was the Bigfoot doing the spider crawl they say they do?
That's very possible.
Dogman does it too. Sneaking around.
I mean, just think about it. You're out there in the middle of nowhere, right? Nobody's around. If you scream, nobody can hear you. That's where I go. I go to those
Exactly.
You see
That's
something
pretty well
like
where I go too.
come out of the woods. That's a shell shock. You know,
Yep.
It's not normal. It's not natural. It hits you different. It's
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
it's one of those like, what are you? And who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
It may even talk to you. I don't want to talk to it.
No.
I just want to say prayers. I want to say prayers over its dead body.
I don't know.
Remember the thing that went in the thing that was in my granny's house when it walked out of the bedroom, ran its hand across all their feet. That was just saying, I'm here.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was doing. That was, shall we say, a wake-up call.
They had another thing down there. I haven't talked about this either. It'll be in the book, but I'll say a little bit about it. There was another thing that looked up. Their house had burnt at one point. They didn't have a roof on their house. And whatever this thing was, it had looked up over the side of the wall. And there was like some of the brothers and sisters and some friends that were staying all night. And whatever it was looked like a hoot owl's head with like pointed dog ears and no bottom jaw. And it was like moving real weird looking at them. And one of the friends never went back to the house. He said, I'll never go back to that house.
I wonder if it was like a beak.
Ooh, I never thought of that.
Because if it doesn't look like it has a bottom jaw, actually that lower part of the beak fits up in there. You don't see it.
My chronic fatigue, yes, very much so. I was in the same boat as a kid.
My parents would have believed me if I come back with some stuff, but my dad probably would have went out there with a gun trying to find where it was.
Right.
Yeah, and I'll tell this.
Protecting his little girls.
Tartan says, I saw a couple of bigger things, but my niece saw cartoon head creatures that tried to get her to follow them. She was just a tiny wheeless, maybe 3 or 4 mom. And I'm glad you said that, Tartan, because the story I read today on that is these little boogers are known to attack children on Halloween night and steal their masks.
Yep. I saw something about that too.
I do not. I mean,
but they were wearing costumes.
Ooh, yeah.
They were wearing little princess costumes and stuff.
Yep.
And
like I said, there's nothing nice about these.
And the male,
if they would act right, they could probably get employed at Disney World. They could all be those little characters running around in the costumes, so Mickey Mouse isn't 5'10", and scaring the children when they think Mickey Mouse is supposed to be, 2 foot.
Yes, they do talk, Scott.
Yeah, there's a lot of turmoil right now at Disney World, though.
Yeah.
Yes, there is.
Mickey got a divorce, but I can't go into why. But
They went downhill for me when they stirred the Captain Jack Sparrow pot with Johnny Depp. They lost all the respect for me then. That's a whole different story.
Scott, to answer that, yes, they do talk. Their voice is different from a human's, but yet still humanish. And they do actually seem to be able to speak some English, but they also speak what I'm going to call their own language. I don't know how to describe it any other than that. Gibberish.
Tanisha's like, she's talking about, they must be watching the humans, and that goes back to the pictures under the bridge. I think they really do.
Yeah, they do. There's no doubt about it.
Watching and learning.
No.
That may be why they're trying to steal stuff too. They watch us use it, so they're trying to maybe steal it and use it.
I wonder,
some things maybe.
Well, usually the things they steal are not what you would call a tool that you would be able to use in a productive way. They steal stuff like, well, the bike you could use in a productive way, but the other toys, it's more something that a kid will play with. Whereas a gnome is not going to use that in his life, his daily life. It's not going to be of anything productive for him. So, no, I believe they steal that to use as bait to get the child to come out. And I kind of think that they seem to be patient about it, because the lady up in Alaska whose daughter disappeared, for almost 9 months prior to that, they would just occasionally have things disappear. And at first they put it off on, well, they just misplaced stuff. But then it became enough stuff was disappearing that, yeah, they knew something funny was going on, but had no idea what it was. Yes, Marquetta, they stink.
Reek.
Yep.
Well, I mean, do they have children? I'm sure they're wondering if they have children. Gnomes.
I don't know for sure. I'm assuming they do, because there are male and they are female of the species. So, and the fact that there are more than just a pair of them tells you pretty well that, yeah, they do reproduce somehow.
And I think that if they're reproducing and they're all gnomes, then they're probably reproducing with each other and not as much as the kids are.
Yeah.
They're probably eating the kids, like what Brooke said. The kids
Brooke said is a very good, that is a very good probability.
Yeah. I wonder if anybody's
Although, like I say, it does seem to be probably 80% of the cases that are attributed to them are young female. So, I mean, I just don't know.
Frida, I'm sorry, honey.
I mean, I guess we just don't know anything about it.
Nope.
So,
well, what can you say?
Did one ever touch you, Kirk?
No. Very close, though. And I guess it's time. I guess it's time to get into this.
Yeah, I'm ready for this.
I'm not.
All right, I'm going to get my drink. I'll be right back, guys.
I will do the best I can.
See what you done? Now you got brandy drinking.
tell you the truth, I could probably use a drink about now myself, but I won't.
I know me and you,
Uh,
and Kirk hasn't told me anything about this. All Kirk told me was he was going to share it tonight, and it would be hard for him to share it. That's all I know. I don't know anything about what he's about to tell.
and this will probably answer some of the questions that you people have been asking. I will wait till Brandy comes back on because I don't want her to miss it either, because pretty much I can do this one time and I probably will never bring it up again. We'll never talk about it again.
She's got her pen and paper.
I had my drink.
This goes back to middle to late 60s up in Ohio, northern Ohio. My family lived there. The house that we lived in was actually built in 1811. It was uphill from the Black River. The Black River was a very famous kind of river for the Underground Railroad, where the slaves would actually make it up to the house that we ended up living in, take that tunnel down to the river, and then take the river down to the mouth of Lake Erie. They would board a fishing boat and actually meet another fishing boat out in international waters and transfer it over to Canada and get their freedom. Well, like I said, our house was that house. In the basement, there was a tunnel going from our basement all the way down to the river. Of course, long before my dad ever bought the house, that tunnel had been closed off. But all they did to close it off was pile dirt up right in the basement at the base of the tunnel to close it off. On our property, we also had a large barn. The barn, if you were facing it, the left side of it, there was a one-car portion turned into a garage that had a cement floor, a small wall, and then the rest of the barn was normal cattle barn. Giovanna, if you're not going to be serious about a topic, don't do the show.
No.
I'm going to say...
Don't know what the hell that's all about.
I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure it's because we laughed at some of the stuff. But you know what? If people need to realize that also is in my work, whenever you go to school and the things that you see and what you do, part of your release and part of your healing is being able to take things lightly and not let those burden you. It's called a release, is what it's called.
Absolutely.
The military practices it, law enforcement practices it, nurses practice it.
Right here.
It's not a sign of disrespect. It's a sign of trying to keep your mental state and not taking it home with you, not trying to take it personal. And it's a release. And it doesn't mean that the subject's not important. It means that what you're doing is you're trying to keep it
lighthearted.
Yeah, tolerable. She's a nurse. I know Kirk has seen things, and I've seen things on a daily basis. Friends and family that were killed. And I'll tell you right now, if you're not able to laugh about it, you'll never make it.
Mm-mm. Now, some of the things you see and deal with in nursing too, if you can't laugh about it later on or try to find a way to look at it from another angle, you'll never survive it.
It's a release. it's instead of crying, you laugh. It's the same release. It's the same release. Some people cry, some laugh, some will detach. And me and Kirk talked about this the other day. That's the most dangerous is when somebody detaches.
Yeah.
That's where you get your suicides. Did you know that most nurses and most police officers kill themselves on their day off?
Yep.
And you know where their last phone call was before they done it?
Mike,
To
you got
where
a
they
bug
work.
To their supervisor. Yeah, it's that fly.
Yeah.
I want to eat him here in a second. Yeah, it was to their partner, and people say, why wasn't it to their wife? It's because you spend more time with your partner than you do your wife, and they understand. It's not a love thing.
Yep.
It's not a respect thing. It's an understanding that you have with each other.
Yep.
But yeah, it's
back to Kirk.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, the barn was a normal cattle barn, but the barn also had a hayloft, and in the hayloft, the original owners of the place that built it also had raised homing pigeons. So there was a 12-foot by 12-foot room up there that they called the bird room. Very odd things always. That barn felt creepy upstairs, but yet creepy to the point that you kind of wanted to investigate, shall we say, or it just wasn't enough to scare you away. It just made you interested. The next door neighbor on one side, lady by the name of Mrs. Saunders. At that time, she was in her 80s, so I'm sure she's long, long gone by now. And on the other side, we had a single mother with a daughter who was my exact age. And when I say my exact age, she was one day older than me. Her mother and my mother were in the hospital at the same time giving birth. Didn't know each other then, but, once they moved by us and they did get to know each other. But anyways, the little girl, because her mother was very overly protective, she pretty much wouldn't let the girl go outside to play unless, like, I was out there or my older brother was out there. So she was pretty much like my little sidekick. She was my shadow. Beautiful little girl. I mean, of course, at the time, I didn't think so or anything, but looking back, I do realize she was a very beautiful girl. Anyways, one day we were outside playing. It was like end of July. School hadn't started yet. Back then, we didn't start school until after Labor Day. We walked in the barn, and we were maybe 2 steps in the barn, and notice there's another kid in the barn in front of us. And you only got like a split second, and it's like this kid's bald-headed. And about that time, it turns its head and looks back at us, and there's a board missing from the floor, and it dove under the floor of the barn. my first thought was, I need to go over and look at, who the hell was this? I don't know that kid. Then I realized that kid was naked too. And it's like, now there's something not right here. The girl, my neighbor, and I keep refraining from using her name simply because things did not end good for her. Because of this, she had ended up having a lot of mental issues, and I heard several different rumors that she committed suicide after high school, but I don't know. Anyways, me and her just looked at each other after seeing him, and we ran out of the barn. I told my mom. Mom didn't believe me. Lisa told her mother that there was some other kid in the barn, but she didn't know who it was, and she didn't tell her that the kid was naked because she was sure that her mom wouldn't let her go outside and play anymore. We, over the course of the next 3 or 4 months, there was weird stuff go on. You would hear like somebody walking around on our back porch, hear running footsteps. My dad thought that at first he thought it was kids, but then, no, wait a minute, this is happening as late as 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. There's, not going to be kids. Well, okay, maybe it was teenagers. And the problem with that is the footsteps were not loud enough to be an adult size. But yet, Dad, of course, was looking for a rational reason. About the end of September, 1st of October, me and the girl were outside. We had got our homework done. She would actually come over to our house occasionally if her mom had something to do and kind of like be babysat. Well, pretty much we were out playing because she had been over that day for that reason. And my dad had parked, my dad owned a junkyard, and he had a scrap hauling truck that was old International. It was a 1948. It was basically a big straight body truck that you would stack scrap cars on. But anyways, that type of truck, you had a switch that you flipped, and then you pushed a button for it to start. Well, that day, me and her were playing out there, it came out and was, shall we say, tormenting us. She went running home. I ran back to the house. And I don't know what made me, but I went back out to the truck. And I knew that if I pushed that button on that truck was going to start to go forward. When that little son of a bitch came back out again, I was going to be waiting in that truck. I was going to run his ass over. Excuse my language, I'm sorry. And I did that. I sat in that truck until it came out. I made sure it was in gear. And I hit that button. Unfortunately, I did not turn the switch on. So it wouldn't start, but the starter moved was enough to move it forward. The truck went about 4 or 5 foot forward. Like I said, I didn't get it with it, but I wanted to get it. Of course, my mom saw the truck move out the window, and make a long story short, I caught hell for it. You know, what were you doing in the truck? And it's like, what can I even tell her? She already doesn't believe that there's another kid out there that's naked. So, yeah, I got punished for that. As I said, Dad owned a junkyard. A little more history about Dad was he was Korean War frontline infantry for the entire war. So, you know, he was used to seeing death. He was used to being put in bad situations, shall we say. And because he was a businessman, he always carried a pistol with him because he always had money. Let's face it, robberies happen. Well, Dad would normally practice with that pistol. He would go through a box of shells a day. Very, very good shot. One night, me and my older brother wake up to a gunshot. And we could tell that it was in the house, didn't know where it was from. And me and him shared the same bedroom. So we come running out and we're in the kitchen. The basement stairs came out into the kitchen. And my dad comes walking up the stairs, shaking his head, holding the pistol. And me and Donnie's like, what'd you shoot? What'd you shoot at? And you could tell Dad was upset. And, you know, I didn't know why. He said, Mrs. Saunders' cat. Must have been Mrs. Saunders' cat. Oh, well, I wasn't happy to hear that because, you know, I kind of like the cat, even though she let it run loose in the neighborhood. It was still, it was kind of a cool cat. But it just, looking back, no, it wasn't Mrs. Saunders' cat, number one, for him to shoot a gun in the house with us right above him. It had to be something. We actually weren't allowed to go in the basement after that. Not saying that we didn't sneak down a time or two. And when we did, where the tunnel had been filled with dirt, the top, foot and a half had been dug out. The dirt was actually a lot of it pushed into the inside. The only thing that I can really surmise was Dad heard something went down there with the gun. There that little bastard was, and he went to take a shot at it, and it just happened to get away. I find it hard to believe my dad missed, but it is what it is. Maybe he did. The next day, we actually saw Mrs. Saunders' cat. It was perfect condition. It had been shot. And it's like, no, Dad, we saw Mrs. Saunders' cat today. It wasn't that. It's like, well, I don't know. Don't worry about it. He didn't want to talk about it, didn't want to say anymore. He was the type that didn't talk about a lot of stuff. If it was something high stressful, it wasn't until Dad was in his 70s that I even learned much about what he went through in the war. Anyways, after him firing at that, me trying to run it over, things were very calm until the next spring. The next spring, things started happening again. And this time, they seemed to be getting worse. My neighbor, the girl, there was no doubt that it was targeting her. We would never see it except when she was out. And unfortunately, anytime she was out, we would see it, it seemed like. She, even at that point, was getting to the point where she was withdrawn. You could tell she just wasn't her normal self that she was last year. And she really didn't want to be outside. I didn't know why at the time. You know, looking back on it, yeah, I know why now. But anyways, like I say, things started heating up. And at that point in time, my oldest cousin had just got back from Vietnam and came to live with us. We kept hearing things outside again, kept hearing things on the back porch, on the front porch. So between my dad and my cousin, they decided they were going to set a tripwire. And what this tripwire would actually do was turn a light on beside Dad's bed. Figured that would wake him up. And they put it up. They kept hearing the noises, but yet the trip line wasn't getting set off. So between Dad and Johnny, they decided, okay, maybe it's going on. Maybe it can see the trip line that's going under it. So they put a second one at about 1.5 foot high. Like 2 nights later, it tripped the wire. Yeah, so I believe I need it. It tripped the wire. The light came on. Dad grabbed his gun, went running out the back door. Just saw what he described as a kid going to the back, running to the back of our yard past the barn and there was a fence back there till you got to the next property, and it jumped the fence or climbed over the fence. Dad said jumped it. I really don't. I don't know. But it got over the fence, and Dad just he come back and he said it was a kid. I saw it. It was a kid that's been doing this, and I can't say on the show the words that he used for the little kid or what he'd like to do with that kid's parents if he caught him. But it was a kid, so that's why he didn't shoot. Except I knew it wasn't a kid. I knew it was that damn thing that seemed to live under the barn. It continued that entire summer, terrorizing us. And when I say terrorizing, it's, how do I want to, it was mischievous. You could, like I said, you could hear it walking on the porches, sometimes tapping on windows. You could hear its evil, and I do mean evil, laugh outside your bedroom window. Now you've got to remember, this was the 60s. There was no air conditioning. Damn sure no central air when the house is 150 years old. Again. So you went to sleep at night in the summer with the windows open and just a screen in it. I mean, just a screen between you and this thing. I really didn't like being outside by myself. Simply because, well, I guess you know why. But the upstairs apartment at our house, we had rented to this one guy. Daryl was his name. And they had allowed Daryl to use the garage portion of the barn to do some work on his car. As Daryl was working on the car, I'd go out there and kind of hang around because I figured I was safe. You know, here is a Vietnam War veteran. This little thing ain't gonna bother me with him there. Anyways, one night I'm out there and I see this gnome come out of the barn side, and it's like looking at us. And then it would disappear again. And then it would come back and look. Don't know what it was looking for, but it would glance at us and go. Well, because I had seen my dad start the grill, and of course back then everything was a charcoal grill. I had seen Dad use alcohol to start the grill, which at the time I didn't know it was alcohol, didn't know the difference between alcohol and gasoline. I saw Dad just throw about half a mason jar of alcohol on the coals and strike one of those farm matches, strike anywhere matches, and throw it in the grill, and poof, it was burning. So I got the bright idea. I was going to do the same, except I was going to do it to this little bastard. Unfortunately, I got gasoline. Like I say, I didn't know the difference between gasoline and alcohol. And I had about half a mason jar. I think it was the quart jar, quart size. I don't know. It felt big in my hand back then, but it might have been a pint jar. Hell, I don't remember that well, but you know, it was half full. And literally, when I had that and it popped up, I threw it on it, struck that match and threw it at it. It screamed like you've never heard before. And then the screaming quit as it took off running as it was burning. Daryl, the one that was working on the car, he saw it burning and running away. He also saw that there was some gasoline burning on the barn. He actually he was using a rug to lay on, and he actually grabbed that, was going to try to chase what he thought was a kid and use that to put him out with. But it was gone so quickly that within like a few seconds, Daryl couldn't even see it anymore. And then he stopped and he used the rug to put out the little bit of the barn that was burning. Several of the neighbors had actually saw what they described as a kid on fire running, heading down towards the river. The police came out, investigated. Of course, they questioned me. I wouldn't say a word. I just stood there. They asked Daryl who the kid was. Daryl said, I don't know. There was no kid. Then just all of a sudden, poof. The police did a search. They actually did find burn marks on bushes and stuff heading down to the river. But they never found a body, and there were no kids whatsoever missing. Did I send that one to hell? I don't know. I know we never had any trouble after that again. I know it ruined several people's lives. Literally, until a very good friend of mine, about 3 years ago, was having trouble with a gnome. I'd never told another person this, and I ended up sharing it with her so that she knew what she was going through at the time was not, she wasn't the only one, and she wasn't crazy. And had it not been for the fact that I shared it with her, I probably couldn't be speaking about it tonight. I hope it went back to hell, Steve. I really do. I did my best to send it there.
I guarantee you, when you lit that thing on fire, he was looking for the water.
Yeah.
Them little things, they're just evil. Just
Yeah. Yep.
I bet you it died, don't you?
I sure the hell hope so, and I believe so. I believe in
I
my
bet
heart it did.
Hopefully it burned it.
It was hard, JD. It was hard.
What do you think it was doing at your house? What do you think made it come there? Like, was it attracted, you think, to something, or did it just found?
No, it wanted my next door neighbor, the little girl. And I feel the only reason it was bothering us is because I was standing in its way. Are they migratory? I don't know. I think more like hibernatory. They hibernate, I believe, when it's that cold. They just don't come out. But there again, in Alaska, they're actually seen all year round. So I don't know.
From what I read, they're kind of like squatters. As long as it's convenient, you know, there's food and they have a place to stay, and they'll do as less work as they have to.
Yep, it's quite normal. It's quite normal to hear them described as living in caves. Yes, it was very hard, Linda.
Things are terrible.
Thank you.
I think as long as well, they're kind of like little users. As long as they can use you, they're going to stay. And I know a lot of those. It ain't just gnomes that do that. As long as they can use you, that's where they're going to be. And then whenever they bleed you dry like a tick, then they decide that you're no longer useful. They move on.
My chronic fatigue, I don't know. I really don't. Maybe I did. I don't know.
I think there's a good possibility they're all the same thing. I mean,
it's possible.
And the clothes that they wear, they could be stealing that off of clotheslines, kids' clotheslines.
Or a kid that they took.
Very true, April. Very true. It's just
No, this was in Ohio.
Did you have anything else ever happen after that?
Not at that house. We moved away. Oh, here's something I forgot to say just because it, right after the fire, Dad called a contractor had him come out. And I don't know what all was said, but he had a contractor tear down the barn and fill in where the barn was with concrete. And when I say right after, I mean like he knew something. I mean, it was like the next day that he had that contractor out there.
Man.
I bet he knew what it was. He just wasn't going to say.
He wouldn't talk about it. No, he wouldn't talk about it. He would not say.
It was easier for him to rationalize it as a kid.
Yep.
Right.
Sheldon wants to know how old was you, Kirk, when that took place?
Okay, my birthday is July 5th. It started in August and we'll say into July, first part of August, and on to the next year till the fire happened like the end of September or early October. So it was, like most of 2 summers, but an entire year worth of it happening.
Yeah, I think Steve's right.
Yeah.
He didn't want to scare y'all, so he wasn't going to say what it was.
Right. Yeah, I know that. At the time, I didn't know that. Yeah, I know that now.
That's
like I say, after the 3.5 years in Korea, he was battle hard. It took something definitely that he perceived as a threat for him to shoot in the house like that.
You think it was an older one, or since it was bald headed? Like, you think it was a?
Well, both of them I've seen were bald headed. The one that my friend saw that was having the trouble with it was bald headed. The one that was here in Pennsylvania that my very good friend was having trouble with was bald headed. All the laughs that night, Gordon, were I'm sorry.
You're okay. I think that
they were evil.
Yeah, they were evil. I mean, I can still to this day hear them.
And that's what that lady said in that encounter I done. She said it was the cackling was the worst.
Cackling, yeah.
She said they laughed all the time. Evil. Anytime you need
like I said,
to quit, Kirk, we can move on to anything, something different if you need to.
Tanisha, I very much do believe that. I would very much bet that there was some type of encounter, and yeah, you're right. That's why she wouldn't let her play outside by herself.
Jeff Townsend says when it's you, your family, your little playmate, or them, it always has to be them for justice to be served every single time. That's simply how it should be, no matter who does it or agree. It just does. I agree. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you think it was a whole family that lived under their Kirk?
I don't know. You know, I just I don't know. I just know after that one bastard was set on fire that never saw him again. Yes, I do, Shelley. Very much so.
Well, now that little bastard's done turned to fire and gone to hell. Seemed like he was the only one because you hadn't had problems after that, right?
Correct.
So you were 8 going on 9.
Kind of
Yes.
like a little.
Yes.
Yeah. That's young to have to
He was
endure
kinda like a
something like
little-
that.
Running around by himself out there. He was probably kicked out of a family of them because of how he was.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking too.
It might be. It might be.
You know, maybe he was rogue. But a
Maybe
lot
he
of
was
people said that.
exceptionally.
Oh, they said the laughing that they do would absolutely drive people insane. Everybody said they just never stopped laughing.
And it's an evil laugh.
It's like they can sense the fear.
It's just
against
pure
you.
evil. It's
Did he
pure
scream?
evil.
Did he scream or anything when you caught him on fire?
Just for a few seconds, then it was like it was
Just hauling ass
silent.
forward.
You could hear the burning though. It was like when I threw that match, it went poof. He let out a scream and took off and never saw anything of him again.
Sounds like he got what was coming.
Yeah,
Yeah, Shell.
it said a lot about the runners. I think, if anybody has any questions, put it in capital letters. We'll try to get to it. I
Sorry.
think we're getting close to the end. I don't want to talk about this too much longer.
Yeah.
It's hard on Kirk, and I don't want to press him on it.
Yeah.
But
Get him into watching something a little more. Doing good dreams tonight, and not dwell on this all night long.
Yeah.
Now you got it out there. There's no reason you ever have to talk to it again. Just tell people you want to know about it. Click on this link.
Yeah, that's about it.
Just find a way to let it go. It's easier said than done.
Yeah.
All of our experience is paranormal. So, but I mean, I know it's hard to let stuff go sometimes.
Yeah.
Randy, stop it.
I'm not going to go into it on you, Mike. I won't do that to you.
And we may do it. We may do a show some night and talk about that, maybe. Because I even though I don't like it, I have had it happen to me, and I'll be the first one to tell anybody that stuff. It honestly scares me. It actually makes me uncomfortable.
Oh, I know.
It makes you feel you feel helpless, because how do you attack something?
Right.
I learned later, how to do it by using Jesus' name and all that. But when you're younger, you see that stuff, and man, that really messes with you.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Well, I didn't believe in it until I was an adult, and even still, it messed with me.
How old are you now?
48.
48. So you would have went through it probably about the same time I was going through. I'm 46. I'll be 47. You know, it seems like back in that time, you had Boggy Creek happen. You had the Kaimichi Mountains happen. You had the California film happen, the Gremlin film. There was a lot
Patterson
of things.
Gimlin.
Yeah, there was a lot of things in that time frame. And if you notice, all those big things that happened, nothing really that big has happened again. Everybody is still basing most of their information off of then.
Off what the events were at the time. Yep.
Yep. That's right. Frida got it right.
Exactly right, Frida.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Well, guys, I'm going to start wrapping it up for about a little over 2 hours. And Kirk told a really hard story, and we appreciate that, Kirk, you sharing that with us. I know it's hard.
We love you, Kirk.
It takes a lot of, it takes a lot of strength, Kirk. That's takes a lot of bravery and strength to do that. And my hat's off to you, and I applaud you. That's very brave.
Absolutely. In front of an audience, it makes it even that much harder.
Yeah. And I appreciate our audience tonight. We got the best audience out there. Everybody's so caring. Everybody was quiet. The chat almost stopped rolling. And we appreciate, the attention that y'all gave to that.
We got the best people.
Oh, we do.
Yes, we do.
Definitely.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
And we don't take our viewers for granted. You're not a number to us. You're people.
No.
No.
Your family.
And we appreciate that a lot. Guys,
I hope now you. I was going to say, I hope now you understand why I was kind of putting off starting to tell it as late as possible.
Yeah.
It was hard. And I was hoping that maybe technical difficulties would happen and I wouldn't have to tell it. But
now you got it off your chest and you don't have to tell it ever again.
Yep.
Right.
Well, guys, I'm going to let first I'm going to say thank you, Brandy, for being on tonight. You done an awesome job. It was good having you.
Great.
You done a great job.
I'm not that all knowledgeable about gnomes. I was just waiting on Kirk's story. I was excited.
Well, I thought you done really well. Kirk, I'll let we'll let the lady go first, and then we'll let Kirk
Bye,
talk.
guys.
Of course.
Love y'all.
Good night.
Then we'll
Good night,
Good
Brandy.
All right, guys. We appreciate you watching. As always, keep your head on a swivel. Be careful. Until next time, don't be something's dinner. And we will definitely see you on the next one. And we appreciate you all tonight a whole lot. Good night.
Good night, guys. Thanks.